Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I am the Crypto Crow, and this week I'm going to be trying to focus more about my favorite blockchain, Cardano, because there's so much stuff happening, and the way that they're ultimately establishing the fundamental basis for the Cardano blockchain, whether it's in regards to Shelley or Voltaire or Gauguin, staking, all of this fun stuff that's going into this blockchain. And this video is particularly important for staking pool operators, including myself, because there are changes that are happening, all in an effort to further decentralize the network and make sure that ultimately the power and control of the Cardano blockchain isn't narrowed down to just a small number of people. Right now, we have some very sizable staking pools on the Cardano blockchain, and you know, look, they don't want that. To put it simply, they don't want that, and so some things are happening now. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to show you. This is actually my staking node right now. This is the Crow node. I still get people asking me, "Hey, Crow, what's your node?" It's the Crow node. But anyway, this is the official Crow node. Now, currently, you know, we're at a 5.07% ROA, which is pretty decent. I mean, that's not too shabby. Our live stake is currently sitting at 37 million ADA, active stake 32. Now, basically what that means is the difference between how many of those ADA have been confirmed to be delegated to my node as opposed within a particular number of epochs, and then how many have recently delegated but haven't quite, you know, been confirmed as a delegation to that node. Okay, so typically when you move your ADA or you redelegate to a new node, it takes like I think it's two, maybe 3 epochs for that to be confirmed, and you start actually seeing rewards. Because sometimes I'll get people say, "Hey, Crow, I staked to your node. It's been 3 or 4 days. I'm not seeing anything yet." Well, it takes a few epochs before you actually start seeing a return. But we're cranking out blocks. I mean, the node has just been booming. I mean, it really has. It's been doing very, very well. Currently, we're only at 1.99% margin, which is significantly cheaper than the majority of the big nodes out there. Now, there are some that are cheaper, but they're not producing as many blocks too. So there's kind of a give and take there. And you can see the graph. Now, what am I talking about today? What is the ultimate goal behind this video? Well, it's to educate you on this. The clock is ticking until December 6th. Delegators, the K factor is increasing on the 6th of December to 500, and in Q1 of 2021 to 1,000. The saturation level of a stake pool is going to be 64 million instead of the current 212 million ADA now. So basically what we're talking about here is you see the saturation level. Right now, the Crow node is only at 18% saturation. The idea being when a pool gets far beyond the saturation point, you'll see this start changing to like orange and different colors. And then once it starts getting to red, that's basically saying that your pool is too big. They don't want pools to be too big. And ultimately what they're doing currently, I'm 18% of the 212 million ADA. That's basically the limit for a node to become oversaturated. So that's going to be changing because soon it's going to be 64 million instead of 212. Next, the saturation will go as low as 32 million ADA in the first quarter of 2021. So we still have some time. But ultimately, they're looking to potentially reduce this even further down to 32 million, which means that my 37 million currently at live stake would be oversaturated. That actually kind of sucks to some degree. It sucks, but I get it. Like, I understand. Why is the K factor so suddenly changed by IOG? To protect the network against the influence of large stake pools set up by exchanges. Samples are currently eToro and Binance. Binance is the big one. I mean, they're basically trying to do all kinds of stuff to suck up as much Cardano as they can, or ADA. And I personally, when I've been seeing that, I didn't like it. I'm not down with that. To give smaller stake pools a chance to attract more stake to their stake pool and improve the security of the network before the smart contracts are going to be deployed on the network. So basically what they're talking about here is Goguen is coming. The big grand poobah of the entire Cardano blockchain is coming. And so they want to make sure that the Cardano network is as decentralized as it can possibly be. And a part of that means pushing people out of much larger nodes and into the smaller nodes. Because ultimately, if we get 2,000-3,000 stake pools out there all over the globe, but they're all performing well, and the incentive is there for new stake pools because the size of a stake pool is limited. Granted, you're not going to make as much profit as with that larger node, or having been forced into a smaller node because there's less ADA being delegated. However, we're here for the long term, and the more they do, the more IOHK and Cardano Foundation and Emergo and these groups, the more they do to truly zone in on what's going to help the network overall, ultimately helps us all. And so while it stinks from a purely financial level, I get it, and I'm totally with it. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Now, the increase in K factor by IOG is not meant for stake pool owners to create more stake pools. Again, this is about decentralizing the network, not putting the control into any one individual's hands, even if it's one person managing 20 different stake pools. They don't want that. So you should avoid to redelegate your stake to a large stake pool who is creating a farm of stake pools. Read more than 2 pools. Basically, the stake pool operators with a farm of stake pools are undermining the security and decentralization of the Cardano network. Their influence on basis of their stake in the network can become a real problem in the near future. We all want more balanced and decentralized networks since this is better for the future business success of the Cardano blockchain. Organizations and governments don't want to run their businesses on a system that is dependent on a small amount of stake pool operators that have gained the majority in the network. This is a serious business risk for them. Ultimately, it's a serious risk on any front, on any blockchain, and it's one that a lot of, even Bitcoin, has had concerns of there being a 51% controlled attack. Bitcoin Cash, a lot of these networks. Now, as the value of Bitcoin Cash, these other, Ethereum, as the value continues to rise and more people are mining it, and, there's more speculative mining and things like that, it becomes a little bit more decentralized. But, in the case with Bitcoin, for example, China pretty much runs the mining market for Bitcoin, and they control the mining industry to a great degree because the vast majority of Bitcoin mining manufacturers are in China. So they can dictate, well, you can buy a mining unit today, but you're not going to get it for 3 months, maybe 6 months, depending on when you order it. And they kind of, they limit that stuff. And there's a design by it, I've learned. There's definitely a design to it. So it's better to redelegate your stake with stake pools that have less than 32 million stake instead of moving your stake from one stake pool to another stake pool of the same stake pool owner. This will result in a better balanced, decentralized, and secured network, and ultimately translate into more business willing to build on the Cardano blockchain. Stake pools with less than 32 million at stake are able to produce the same amount of blocks with a similar amount of stake than another stake pool. It is a myth that large stake pools produce more blocks because they are better. A lot of them just started on day one. That's what I learned. There are a few things to check before moving your stake to a smaller stake pool. Does the stake pool have redundancy, more than one relay in different geographical locations? Does the stake pool have a hot backup in place for the block producer? Does the stake pool have a website and social media channels? On what hardware are the block producer and relays running? There's a whole bunch of stuff. You can check it out. Just pause the video if you'd like and read them all. Your stake moved from a large stake pool to a smaller stake pool will become active after 2 epochs. There you go. Or 10 days. So take this into account if you're planning for such a move. It is time to take your responsibility and stake with smaller stake pools. And that's basically the ultimate gist of it. So ultimately, I really actually kind of like this, because while it's not as profitable for stake pool operators, because you're not going to be, you're not going to see, 200 ADA being staked and then making a commission or a percentage on all that. However, what I can also see is, because of the limitations on this, I can see our margins going up a little bit. 1.99% is good if we're getting 37, 50, 100 million ADA delegated to the staking pool. But ultimately, I think at some point we're going to start seeing these percentages of margins start to rise, because now the ROI for stake pool operators, because think about it, it costs us money to operate these stake pools as well. So we want to make sure that we're generating as solid an ROI as possible. So we're going to see. Ultimately, this means competition to some degree, but it also, as Cardano continues to grow, which it will, especially once Goguen launches, we're going to start seeing some significant growth, both in Cardano's price, which I'm going to be talking about in another video, and in volume. So until next time, guys, crow your coins. I'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining me.